Train your people quarterly, monthly, however often. Don't do it just one time. Identify who your champions are in AI and get them involved. Those champions on AI, give them access to Frontier. I would not give everybody access to Frontier because if something doesn't work quite right, they may turn them off on the AI game.
Welcome to Demystifying Microsoft, a podcast by the SourcePath Center of Excellence for Microsoft. We believe Microsoft shouldn't be hard. Each week, we break down what's changing across the Microsoft ecosystem, help you solve your toughest challenges, and provide clear, actionable advice to keep you ahead of the curve. If you're responsible for Microsoft decisions and want clarity without complexity, you're in the right place. Welcome back to the Demystifying Microsoft podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Taylor. And today I'm excited to jump into a conversation about the Copilot Frontier program. And I'm joined with my good friend, Graham Rosenberg. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, Nathan. How's it going? Good to see you.
Doing good, man. This is fun. I'm looking forward to this. It's always fun to nerd out with you.
I love talking AI, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, and you're definitely one of the people that I think has gone deepest of anybody I know. And so I'm really excited to get your insights. So why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your role at SourcePath and all the stuff you're doing with AI.
Sure. So yeah, Graham Rosenberg, Director of Intelligence and Automation here at SourcePath. I joined SourcePath the same way you did, through an acquisition about 3 years ago, which is crazy to think about. Really got into this role. So back at Machine Logic, the MSP we were at together before, started dabbling in automation, probably like 2019 timeframe, really RPA automation around Power Automate, doing very basic level things. And when we joined SourcePath, they thought that was pretty cool, the things we built. And they said, hey, why don't you do that full time? So got involved on the RPA side. Similar time frame, ChatGPT launched in early 2023. I was an early adopter of that, was blown away by the technology and went deep. As soon as subscription started, I think February 2023, I signed up and I've been paying for it ever since. Ingrained it into my workflow, into my world. Everything I do, I generally go to an AI chatbot agent first to help me through anything. So yeah, started building the automation team here at SourcePath. Very internal focus at the beginning and even still today, just helping us internally with our internal workflows, operations, and then quickly created the AI team here at SourcePath, and then parallel effort took over the business intelligence team here. So it's really 3 arms of my division. It's BI, AI, and RPA.
Which I think is a great little spot to touch on, which is that as we're moving into this world full of agents and the promise of our agent overlords that are coming, it really is that, right? That the AI is better with access to your data and your business intelligence. And a lot of the early agents are really just automations with a little bit of extra AI intelligence on them. So your role and your evolution fits very closely, I think, with what's happening in the broader industry. So I think that's makes complete sense where you ended up, but also fits well with where I think a lot of the industry is going to end up.
Yeah, absolutely. All 3 are very intertwined and very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about where AI is today, right? Especially in business. You know, you and I are playing with it, asking it questions about all kinds of crazy things, hockey scores, and how do you fix something in your house, that sort of stuff. But in the business space, statistics say 78% of global enterprises are using AI, up from 55 just last year. So I think people are moving slowly from experimentation into mission critical operations. What are you seeing here? What are kind of the things you're seeing of like where we're seeing in business and where it's working and not working?
Yeah, so I think this is an evolutionary shift similar to the on-prem to cloud days. I think this is very evolutionary of how businesses are getting AI incorporated into their business. I look at it, it's 2 lanes. One is like personal AI, like Copilots, your ChatGPTs, your Claudes, individuals interacting with these chatbots to make themselves more efficient. But then there's the other side of the agentic side and agents that do that same thing, but for your business, not for individuals. And recently it's been like, we've been very focused on the Copilot adoption and getting Copilot in the hands of individuals, but how can we do that same thing for businesses? I think the SaaS world is going to be changing drastically. It's already started over the next few years. I think by like 2030, if you are a SaaS vendor and you still require individuals to log into your platform through a web browser, you're behind. You need to be thinking of how can I build my app for agents to interact with my data. I think that's kind of, we're in that shift right now. We're seeing big companies already starting to adopt that methodology, and it's only going to increase here in the next few months and years.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think the biggest barriers are to orgs adopting AI?
Governance is obviously the big one, making sure your data is organized, it's in a structured way. So don't have an employee pinging and figuring out everybody's salaries, just making sure your documentation and everything's organized right. I think the next big thing is education. A lot of businesses are just looking at like, okay, we got this new AI tool. Let's schedule one meeting. Let's teach everyone how to use it. And then you forget about it and you just hope that they continue on. The truth of it is every AI platform, Copilot, Claude, OpenAI, they're releasing new features daily, like literally daily. If you follow any of their Twitter threads, it's just what's the new feature today. And you have to stay on top of that. You have to know what these new features are, and so you can teach your team so they can really take advantage of it.
Absolutely. As we see this rapidly expanding world, Microsoft has obviously got their Copilot products that have been out for a long time, and they're innovating on those, and we're seeing lots of new features come out on that. But Microsoft's kind of created this new program called Copilot Frontier. And you and I both can get into play with that. And it's Microsoft branding. You know, they like to brand things and put a label on it. I think it makes sense. It's working for us. But let's talk about what is Copilot Frontier and jump into some of the features we're really enjoying on that front.
I don't know if this is the correct way of putting it, but it's the beta features of Microsoft 365 Copilot. So anyone that has a 365 Copilot license, if you enable the Frontier for them, they get access to the latest and greatest technologies that Microsoft is building for that. Very early access program. I think they might be using the term experimental rather than beta, but it's really just early access. So it's just being able to use some of those features before they're released to the general public.
Glad we talked about the language there, because some of that language is branding, but I think also that language does communicate things. Beta is like we're still testing. I look at a lot of these features as their preview or early access, meaning Microsoft doesn't mind them in the hands of broader public, but they still want to get more volume in just confirming it's working well. And I think also businesses want to be able to limit access to newer features so they can understand them. Microsoft wants to control the speed of going to market. And I think most businesses want also to understand what's new and what's getting released. But it's also really cool to be able to opt in to see some of these capabilities. And Frontier lands in a lot of areas. A lot of it's around some of the agentic stuff. Obviously, that's the buzzword. That's where things are going. One of the questions is there real business value there in getting into the Frontier program? What are some of the things that stick out to you as just like real tangible business value?
There's huge business value. My favorite Frontier feature that they've released is Claude Opus inside of Excel. I don't know about you, but Copilot in Excel previously left a lot to be desired. I would ask it questions and it just wouldn't do what I wanted it to do, or it would be creating new files when I'm just trying to work inside of my existing spreadsheet. Once that Frontier feature was enabled and I saw Opus in there, I started playing with it and it blew me away. It's my favorite Copilot feature, I think.
That's awesome. Let's jump into how we enable Frontier. Yeah, this is more for the admins in the world, but it's actually really straightforward and it's hard to miss, because if you log in as admin on a Microsoft tenant and you have a Copilot license, it's the first center page block. It's like, hey, enable Frontier. Gives you a little idea of what's available in there. But it's as simple as clicking on that link or logging into the Copilot section in the admin portal, going to the Frontier features. You can enable it. The big thing is we can scope it to specific users. So most orgs are going to set a group of early adopters, and you create a security group, put the users in there, and then you can scope it to that. Orgs, of course, it'll apply it for everybody because they're company where they're really wanting to be on the bleeding edge. But internally, we also scoped it to a specific set of users or our early adopters. And it's really easy to enable. There's no extra cost. It's available to anybody, as you said, that has a Copilot for Microsoft 365 capability. And I think for the admins out there, you need to be using it. You need to be testing it because you want to know what's coming. And one of the paradigms that's weird about AI that I felt from the very beginning, from when it first launched, was my brain is not ready for what AI is doing next. And I have to get my brain's paradigm shifted so that I can think intelligently about what's happening. And so as an admin, I think it's really critical that your fingers are in it, you're testing it, you're seeing what's new, you're expanding your understanding, because people like you, Graham, are always doing things I'm like, I never thought of doing that. And as an admin, it's really hard to manage or protect things that you've never thought of. Like, you're just not even thinking in those paradigms. So we have a mental paradigm shift to make to catch up with how quickly AI is moving. You find that as yourself. Obviously, you're way ahead of the curve than me, but I think you've got a similar mindset, in previous conversations I've had with you.
You're spot on. A lot of it is just developing new muscle memory, especially us technologists. We've been doing things the same way for a very long time, loving the new technology, but this is completely changing the way we do things. I think about 5 years ago, Google was the de facto first step for everything. Google has a very small aspect in my life now where I go to Google first. The same thing is with all these new AI features, like with the Frontier program, I got access to Cowork and Copilot. I see the value playing with it. Wow, where this is going. But it's going there first instead of going straight to my Teams messages or straight to my inbox or doing what I've always done. You got to break those habits and force yourself to learn what the new technology is. When I do Copilot trainings, that's the biggest thing I tell individuals is me teaching you and telling you what it can do only goes so far. You really have to get in there and do it yourself. Figure out what it's good at, what it's not good at, how to prompt it correctly. I spend more time on Twitter these days just trying to understand all the new AI technology that's coming out because it's moving so fast. Let's flag this, bookmark this, let's revisit this so I can go in and play with it, because until you play with it, you don't know what it can and can't do.
Yeah, I love your call out there of Google and search. I still struggle with that. And I made a career for 20 years out of being a great Googler. That was why I was a good network engineer. I could Google my way to solutions quicker than most. And that's a skill. You learn how to phrase things, you learn how to filter, you learn how to quickly triage results and get to answers quickly. And that skill is borderline become a detriment because I have that instinct. I go straight to Google for so many things. And you've broke yourself of that habit. I'm less broken. And Google kind of helped me stay broken because they've now put AI results as the top results now. So often I get what I want, but with the AI flavor from Google. But there's so much I'm missing by not doing it in Copilot, not getting that contextual data. And even searching in Outlook, I still click up at that search bar. They're slowly loading Copilot capabilities into that search bar. But I would love to get better at just using the work search in Copilot chat. And I think I'd get a lot out of it because it's so much better.
It's hard to break those legacy habits that we've been using for years.
The other thing I find hard is I tend to be very good at crafting my search terms because that's what good Googling is. You get really good with your search prompts. And AI wants more verbose search prompts. And so my very concise, very well thought out Google searches don't do as well in AI. So it's a learning curve. But let's move on. Let's talk about our favorite capabilities, go through some of the capabilities we really love in the Frontier program. First one for me is, I just love the multimodal choices in Copilot. Copilot was great. It was corporate approved. It was data. It had enterprise data protections. It gave us an ability to really leverage AI in our business in a safe and secure way. And so Copilot was just such a gift 3 years ago because we weren't going to get OpenAI corporately approved. There weren't enough data protections for our corporate security policy. We have an AI acceptable use in our company. And so having Copilot opened up that door. But I would say that my experience, and I think yours is similar, was that there was times that default ChatGPT OpenAI model that Microsoft was running really left a lot to be desired. And the ability to leverage Anthropic's models, Claude and Opus, and across all the searches I do, I notice a distinct difference in the quality of responses I get, especially around technical things. Have you had the same experience?
Yeah, 100%. I've been on the Anthropic bandwagon for probably 8 or 9 months at this point. Pretty much that's my go-to. So having that inside of Copilot, grounded in my enterprise data, my work data, knows where all my meetings, it's just been a game changer. Something else that Microsoft has done well recently is there used to be a big gap between the latest model in ChatGPT, what the model Copilot was running. Now that gap is almost gone. I think Opus 4.7 came out, and within a week, it was integrated inside of Copilot. So that's helped a lot as well.
And if you've enabled Frontier in Copilot, up in the top right of your Copilot chat window where you select maybe a new conversation, you now have a drop down where you can choose your Claude or your ChatGPT model. And sometimes there's multiple models, like under ChatGPT, you can select different models. And then you also can tell it whether to think deeper or give you a quicker response. So it really gives you an ability to tweak that. And I find that that can make a big difference. When I'm asking a more technical question, maybe I want to lay out to a problem I'm solving with a technical product. Thinking deeper, Claude's models tend to give me more accurate and more in-depth results. So again, though, I think there's another layer there of learning. We now are learning, and I think you've talked about this, and I think also at being adaptive, because what I've also found is not only do I have to learn which models work better or just kind of start to learn how to prompt the product to work differently based on the variables I choose, I'm also finding that the models change over time. And so you have to be ready for, oh, this worked every time for the last 6 months, but today it doesn't. That's a part of life now. And we've got to kind of adapt and understand maybe that's switching back to an older model for that specific prompt, or maybe it's tweaking your prompt language to get the results you need, but in a new model. But it's definitely a learning curve and a change that we're experiencing.
100%. I mean, when ChatGPT changed from version 4 to version 5, it changed the personality, and it created an uproar amongst a lot of people because the personality changed and how you interact with it changed. The technology is moving so fast that we just have to roll with the punches. And that goes with the vendors as well.
I think our brains aren't ready for that either, because we're used to dealing with humans, and humans are who they are. Now, people change over time, but it's very slow, or if they do change quickly, that's jarring to us. Whereas these models we end up interacting with, I think we put them in a mental construct of almost a coworker or somebody we interact with, and so when they change, it's jarring. Well, tell me about what you can do with Claude, with Opus in Frontier in Excel. So you've been using Opus in Excel. I'm actually really interested to hear more. I'm similar to you, where I tried Copilot in Excel a couple of times. I was like, this is not helpful, and just kind of abandoned it quickly. Now I don't do a lot of Excel work, but tell me some of the stuff that you really find it does well for you.
This is kind of a two-parter for Frontier. This was like 2 weeks ago. I had 4 different CSV files in a OneDrive directory. And I asked Copilot Cowork, hey, and they're large, all of them over 100,000 rows each. So like combining them myself was crashing my computer. Like it wasn't able to keep all that memory going. So I was able to ask Cowork, hey, can you take these 4 CSVs and put them into a single CSV for me? And it was able to do that. And then I was able to open it and ask. So now I have like almost 500,000 rows in the spreadsheet, which probably isn't the best use case for that, but just kind of testing. And I was able to ask Opus, hey, review this table and build me some tables and graphs, and was able to look at it. It was a bunch of workflow history. I was able to look at it all, identify all the columns, identify like date ranges, and it built me like a dozen different graphs and tables based on all the data without me pointing it in the right direction or asking it anything. It was able to conceptualize everything that's in there and be like, this is what I think you're looking for. And it was spot on.
That's incredible. I definitely crashed my computer with, we had a billing file that we have to mess with sometimes, and it has 150,000 rows. And you're right. It just crashes computers. Excel just goes, and it just would literally crash the machine. So that's incredible that it was able to do that for you. That's wild.
Yeah. It was a moment where I like threw my hands up like, holy cow, this is like a superpower. It's really a superpower.
That's amazing. Okay, well, let's move on to another feature. And I'll say I was so happy when I saw Microsoft announce this. AI MV is a thing now. I don't think I would have thought existed before, but as we talked about, we use Copilot within the bounds of an acceptable use policy. I have 2 approved options personally in my work environment right now, which is Copilot and ChatGPT. We don't have Anthropic broadly approved. It's approved for certain few users internally because we have a very structured approach to AI internally, which is what companies need to do. And as I watched all these people talking about Claude Code and Claude Cowork and these things, like you said, week to week, you're like, in a week, the world's changed. And everybody who's on the cutting edge is doing all these amazing things. And I'm not. And there's like this envy. So when I saw that Microsoft announced Copilot Cowork, which is them adopting Claude's Cowork product within the Copilot construct, as part of the Frontier program, Within a couple of weeks of Claude Cowork being announced, I was thrilled because it kind of meant that not only did we get access to that tooling, but Microsoft's really making an effort to make sure that we're not at a disadvantage using their stack. I thought that was really cool. So I played with it a bit, but I think you played with it more. Tell me a little bit about what you like about Cowork and what you've been using it for.
Kind of just to set the stage a little bit, the difference between Claude Cowork and Copilot Cowork is Claude Cowork really runs locally on your device. So it has access to your local file system, able to mess with your local files. Whereas Copilot Cowork is using the Graph API and messing with your cloud files and your cloud data. So that is one big distinction. And another big thing that Cowork can do, Copilot Cowork, is when you hit the Copilot button inside of Excel or inside of Outlook, its context is that tool, is that app, is that whatever you're doing in that specific email thread. What Cowork allows you to do is to go multi-app and do multiple things for you and take steps and do things for you. So like some of the things I use it for is my inbox, being able to go through, organize my inbox. Some of the prompts I've been playing with are like, hey, categorize my emails in 3 things, mission critical things I need to take action on immediately, things I need to take action on today, and things that don't require any action, just archive them on my behalf, summarize them and archive them. And it's able to do that pretty well. And even the ones that are mission critical, you can ask it to like draft responses for you. So it takes a little bit of time to cook and go through everything. And sometimes you have to horse it along with the approve button and allow button. But once it's over, you go into your drafts folder and you have 10 or so emails drafted, ready for you to review and click send. It's still early in what it's capable of and like what it's doing, but I see where they're going with it. And it's skills that we have to start learning how to do now, because by the time it's only going to get better and better.
Well, and they're critical skills. I mean, you and I both have a lot on our plate, running departments, divisions, and frankly, email is getting to the point where it is a real problem. And the volume of email we get, I'm not sure there's anybody at fault. It just is. I found that if I really want to really comb through email and manage email well, I can lose 3 or 4 hours a day on email. You can just easily writing and responding. And as humans, we're really bad at prioritizing. Like our brains don't prioritize well. We deal with what's urgent, not necessarily with what's important. That's our instinct. Email is just the tyranny of the urgent. And I just struggle with it, honestly. As much email as I get, I have trouble keeping up because I have so many other things that are demanding my time. And the Cowork capability of like triaging my mailbox is powerful and has been really interesting. I haven't had a chance to look at email in 4 or 6 hours. Okay, Cowork, show me the top 10 most important emails I need to review. Pretty quickly, it gives me a list and I'm able to triage things without having to go through and manually do that. And I think, as you said, as we build rules and we build constructs with it, I think you can start to really drive some real efficiencies and solve some problems for us. And the whole crafting responses is key because a lot of times you just need somewhere to start. You're like, oh, yep, that's good. Nope, I want to tweak this details, or no, I want to write my own thing. But just having something to work off sometimes helps short circuit that process to respond to those emails. So I agree. The ability it has to manage email is really interesting. I do find it a little slow. That is frustrating. But I also think that's going to improve over time. Microsoft's building out capacity for it. And it's a frontier feature, right? These are some of the downsides of running an early access tool is they're still figuring out its access to your data, how quickly it works. Can it leverage your local AI processing chips? I don't think they're using that currently for that, but I got to imagine some of that's coming where they're going to offload some of that processing to your device. And just things like that, I think, on the horizon.
A big prompt I love with Cowork is ending my day. Like, hey, review all the emails and chats I've had through today, as well as my meeting transcripts, and tell me what are some things I should take action on before I head home for the day. It's amazing some of the things that pulls out. It's like, wow, I didn't think about that. I'm glad that brought that to my attention.
Have you played much with the Frontier Researcher agent?
A little bit. When I have worked with it, it works like super well. From my understanding, I'm just playing around with it, is it seems like it has a system prompt that's hidden above, and it has Think Deeper turned on instinctively, just by default. But it's amazing some of the, like, it takes a while to churn through because it's researching for you, but it's amazing some of the stuff it comes back with. Meeting transcripts and emails and chat messages. And It's pretty cool how it works.
I've been using it quite a bit. What I think is interesting is I think you're right. It's just a construct on top of the model that's adding some prompts, right? So the people who really use AI well have built out their set of prompts where they prep the agent before they ask their question. Hey, these are the things I want you to keep in mind. These are the construct and the context and the thinking styles and the answering styles and the variables I want covered. Now let me answer my question. I think Researcher, one of the things it does is it solves some of that for you, is it turns on Think Deeper. It asks, I tend to still hit it with just a natural language query. Hey, I'm wrestling with this. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. And it almost always comes back with a follow-up prompt with 3 or 4 questions for me to clarify. Are you want me to build that for an executive audience or an end user audience? Are you looking for a technical deep dive that's long, or you want a high-level informational conversation? Do you want me to, all these questions that allow it to get more clarity on what you want. And I love that because it's kind of doing the work to build the prompts for me. And I think that's really, really cool. I found it does some really good work. I've used it for a couple scenarios that really knocked my socks off. One of them was I had a pretty complex project we were quoting out for a customer, and I knew most of what I wanted to build for that. But it would have taken me a while to pull together the details because it's something we don't do as often. It's for a tool set that we manage less often. Projects I've done a number of years ago, but I haven't done in the last 3 or 4 years. But I knew enough to know exactly where we're going to land and all the things I wanted to cover. And I took Researcher and I said, here's the 2 scoping calls we had. Ignore these 3 pieces of the conversation because they ended up being things we're not addressing. And here's some important things for you to cover. Can you go build me a scope of work and a project plan? And it sat there and churned. And when it was done, I had an incredible project plan. Details I wouldn't have remembered to include, great questions, milestones, risks, testing steps, roles and responsibility. It was brilliant. And I would have spent hours and hours getting to that level of a project plan. And I don't think I would have had the level of detail it had. Now, I had to go tweak one setting because there was one piece where it said to use one tool that I knew was not appropriate, that it misunderstood how that tool was used. And so I had to tweak 1 or 2 settings. But that's an example of 5 minutes worth of prompting created 8 hours worth of work done like instantly. And it was really mind-blowing. And I think it's that deeper research. I was able to pull in context from the internet and context from history and context from knowledge base and knew all the things I would have wanted included. And I was just blown away by what it created.
That's amazing. That's something I'm going to have to play with more because, yeah, that's a great use case right there.
It really is. Little secret behind the curtain too, I use it to write a lot of our podcast episode outlines. And I'm always blown away by the details it adds. I generally know what I want to talk about, generally know where I want the flow of the conversation, but it adds details. And some of those details really add a lot of like, oh, I forgot the branding for that feature, but that's an important feature that really makes the product work. Microsoft and all their branding, it can be hard to keep up. I find it's just really good at filling in the gaps, organizing things well, and just taking stuff that would have taken a while to prep and turning it into 5-10 minutes worth of work and you're done.
I always tell friends, coworkers, anyone that AI is not the solution. It's a tool in your tool belt and you should use it as such. It's like an executive assistant that's way smarter than you.
It's an accelerator.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. So your favorite feature of Frontier is the Opus in Excel. My favorite feature is WorkIQ. One of my big complaints about Copilot since it came out was I wanted it to know more about me. It has all my chats, all my emails, all my documents. I record 90% of the calls I take. It has transcripts from all the conversations I'm on. And I always just felt like if I ask you a question, you have that information. Why aren't you responding with that context? And since we turned on Frontier and we got access to the product called WorkIQ, which is the intelligence layer that Microsoft announced at Build last year, I've seen an incredible improvement in the quality of the responses. And it's my single favorite feature because I find it's, for example, those podcast episode outlines, it's learned my tone, it's learned our branding, it knows where we want to land and autofills a lot of that because it's seen it over and over. Our messaging and our branding and our go-to-market mindset is now built into the culture of the responses I get from Copilot. So WorkIQ has been my favorite feature and continues to be my favorite feature. What have you seen from WorkIQ that helped you?
Couple things. One is Outlook one day is like, hey, your boss here, do you want me to auto accept all of his meeting invites? Yes, please. You should do that for me. But the other one is just inside of Copilot, just chatting with it. I do a lot of like Jinja code templating for our workflows and stuff. And I used to have to prompt it and like give it specific instructions. Now it remembers that. I don't have to do that anymore. It remembers my prompt from long ago. It knows kind of how I want my Jinja structured. It's really cool to just see the memory and just what it knows about you.
Absolutely. The other thing I've seen it do really well is I've started to just ask it about customers. I'll go into a call with a customer, and we have a lot of customers for our team. And there's times I don't know a lot of context. And I'll ask it, hey, tell me about this customer. And it'll pull recent emails I'm involved in. It'll pull chats I'm involved in, but then it'll pull like contract details, project details from files. It'll pull discussions that were in a sales meeting I was in. And it pulls it all together and condenses it into 3 or 4 paragraphs with bullet points. And sometimes it's just like, to find this data, I couldn't search for this. I couldn't pull it together quickly, but it's just instantly grabs all that context across the things. And I think, like I said, this was the promise of Copilot. And I so looked forward to it. And now it's finally here. Okay, now you are better than me at pulling this stuff together. For a long time, I felt like Copilot, when I put it in the right context, was a superpower, but I had to shore it up with all the things it needed to be successful. This document, this email, this context now answer my question. That stuff's happening intuitively. And I think it's a giant step forward in the quality of responses we're getting from Copilot now that WorkIQ is involved.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, the next conversation is agents. You're doing a lot with agents. I'm still learning. I'm playing with them, but you're definitely ahead of the curve on me there. Talk to me about agents and Frontier, and you've got a lot to share here. So tell me about agents.
Yeah, so you just got to think of an agent as AI taking action on your behalf. That could be whether it's prompted to do so or it's triggered to do so. But like at the core, that's really what an agent is doing, is just taking action on your behalf. Some of the agents that we've developed kind of internally, the big one is related to our inbound tickets for our service teams. Previously, we had a dispatcher. Ticket would hit the board. Dispatcher would review it, clean it up if necessary, make it look good, categorize it correctly, type, subtype an item, set the priority, then route it to the proper skill board, whether this is like a service level 1 ticket, or this is a knock ticket or a security ticket. That used to be done by a human. We developed an agent that is kind of an orchestrator of many sub-agents that does all of that for us. So we developed an agent that cleans up the ticket, makes a summary and the description look really good, clean out all the noise, get rid of any like weird email artifacts that are in there, and structure it to our standard. Next would be the type, subtype, and item agent, categorize them correctly. We didn't ground that data on legacy tickets. That's a very common thing. We instead took a different approach where we went through and gave definitions for each of those and grounded our data in that. Because my theory at the time was, if you have a ticket and you ask 5 different people to categorize it, you're going to get it categorized 5 different ways. So if you let the agent do it based on grounded definitions, it will do it the same way every single time. You're not training it on bad data. Same with priority. We built an agent that's very specific on the priority and then the skill set, how to route it to each board. Instead of building all of that into a single agent, we decided to take the approach of building it into just smaller sub-agents that are very, very tuned into what it's trying to do, keeps the context small. And we try to take that approach amongst a lot of different avenues that we do. I like to look at it as, if you have an employee on your team, a human employee on your team, and you ask them to do 8 different jobs, they're going to do those 8 different jobs to a certain level. Whereas if you ask them to do one specific job, they're going to go deep on that job and do it very, very well. So I like to look at it the same way of agents, just give them one specific task. That way, if you need to make a change in the future of how the logic does, you're not breaking your entire agent. You're adjusting that one little facet of it. And that agent has been super successful for us. It used to be humans doing this work. It wasn't always done correctly. It would take longer because we would need to wait for a human to do it. This is all happening within real time now. Within 60 seconds of a ticket hitting our system, it's categorized, routed, looking good, ready for someone to pick it up and work on it.
That's amazing. I mean, you called out a couple things in there I think are worth highlighting. One is, I think there's an urge to say, hey, out of all this data, let me point the AI at it and have it start doing things for me. And I think the garbage in, garbage out acronym from the past or the mantra of the past is really true with AI. And I think it's really important to call that out. If you want AI to do something interesting, be really careful with the data you feed it, because it's very easy to just say, hey, this data is good, but you might be training it on the wrong thing or giving it the wrong set of examples. And I think you guys tried that, right? You gave it, hey, here's a bunch of categorized tickets, go categorize based on what we've done in the past. And it just wasn't effective. It doesn't know what to focus on when you just give it the ability to think freely like that. You had to really focus it.
I try to always take the idea of how can I make this context as small as possible while including all the information I can. It's kind of like just if you an XY axis somewhere on the point, you want to be mindful of both things.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a question on that context. I think your comment about using multiple small agents instead of one big agent is really powerful, because I think we tend to think of like, well, I bought an ERP. It does my accounting. So I'm going to do an accounting agent that does my accounting. I'm oversimplifying it, but I think that's the way my brain works, right? And so I love this idea of, can you break it up into individual jobs that each agent does, and they can even hand them off to each other. You can do them in series. Do you think by limiting the scope and the instruction set for an agent, you also limit the impact of hallucinations?
Oh, 100%. That's the whole point of doing it, is to stop that from happening. Because I mean, at the end of the day, all AI is text predictor. It's predicting what you want it to do. So if you narrow that scope, it's less free will to go predict incorrectly.
That's interesting.
Keeping the context just as small as possible will get you the best results.
Yeah, absolutely.
Microsoft just developed an agent framework. They came out with it about a month ago. That kind of talks about this very thing. So going to your accounting agent as an example, you can develop a single chat agent that has a persona that individuals interact with, your accounting agent, whatever you want to call it. But underneath of that, the framework, that agent can have access to multiple agents behind the scenes. And Microsoft just came out with a framework. It's very similar to like the Claude Code framework. They interact very similarly, but it allows you to break up those agents behind the scenes. So you as a person interacting with it, you don't realize that you're chatting with a dozen different agents behind the scenes. The framework takes care of all that for you.
Well, I definitely think we'll have more conversations around agents, and would love to have you back on to dig deeper as you dig deeper. It's an area that I think the industry is investing in. We're recording this on the last day of April 2026. Tomorrow, May 1st, Microsoft launches Microsoft 365 E7, and that's their new suite that's got all kinds of capabilities. And one of the big things it bundles in is their new Agent 365. And I know one of the interesting challenges coming is, okay, you built all these dozens and dozens of agents, and you're building them, and this person's building them, and that person's building them. Now, how do we manage them as an org? How do we know what's running? And Microsoft really trying to push this idea of thinking of those agents almost as users or personas or identities that have to be managed, their access, their security, all their governance, all the things we do for users, we now have to start doing for agents. And Agent 365 is their framework for that. And we're really excited to dig into that as that matures and grows as a product. But thanks for sharing your insights in it, because I'm still, we talk about that paradigm shift of trying to get your brain to understand things. Agents is definitely the thing, one of the things I'm really trying to expand my mind on, and really understand better. So thanks for sharing.
You're not alone. It may sound like I know what I'm talking about, but literally I'm scrolling Twitter every day, just trying to learn more and more of what things people are building and the technology that's available. It's crazy how fast it's moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything you're looking forward to on the future you have heard announced, you've seen on the Microsoft roadmap that you're excited about?
Agent 365, I'm super interested in getting in there and figuring out how it all works. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, by 2030, I think it's going to be agents interacting with our SaaS tools more than humans. And I think a lot of those agents are going to land in Agent 365. And that's how permissions are going to be divvied out. That's how people will get access to it. I really think Microsoft is taking the correct approach here. We might be a little early to it just because the whole agent thing, people are still trying to figure out, but I'm glad to see it and I'm excited to play with it.
Absolutely. Well, if you could give one piece of advice to a company, organization that's just started their Copilot Frontier journey, what is it? What would it be?
Train your people quarterly, monthly, however often. Don't do it just one time. Make it a recurring thing. Identify who your champions are in AI and get them involved. Bring them pick their brains, have them lead some of those trainings, have contests on prompting. And yeah, those champions on AI, give them access to Frontier. I would not give everybody access to Frontier because if something doesn't work quite right, it may turn them off on the AI game. But yeah, that would be my biggest thing is education and think about building custom agents internally. I think that's really the future of how AI is going to supercharge your business is custom agents.
Yeah, that's great. I think I'd pile on where you're at. I'd say my biggest advice is to join Frontier. If you're not using Copilot internally, at least as an IT department or as a leadership team, you need to buy a couple licenses. You need to enable Frontier. And you need to find, as you said, that kind of that power user, that early adopter group, find that pilot group and let them kick the tires. Because I do think there is a sense in which putting your head in the sand, you're gonna miss out on stuff. And not just the outcomes that you can drive, but it's the thing we've been talking about of that mental paradigm shift. You as a business won't be able to understand it if you're not using it. Almost like you have to build the framework, get through the paradigm shift, then you can evaluate how it impacts your business. Then you can think about how to scale it up. But you can't short circuit that process of learning that. And that process happens through getting your fingers dirty and jumping in there. So, well, Graham, this has been awesome. I know it would be. You're brilliant on this topic and you put a lot of time and energy into it. So thank you for coming and sharing your insights and helping us dig deeper on this. It was a lot of fun.
Anytime, Nathan. Thanks for having me, man. Great conversation.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on today's episode. If you want to learn more about Microsoft Copilot, Frontier program, Microsoft 365 E7, Agent 365, reach out to our team at the SourcePass Center of Excellence for Microsoft, the MCOE. We're happy to help you with licensing, deployment, those sorts of things. And we're really excited about digging into E7 and seeing how that impacts businesses. Launches tomorrow. Can't wait to get my fingers on it. And it's an exciting time to be a Microsoft nerd and to be playing with Copilot. We look forward to catching you on the next Demystifying Microsoft podcast. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on Demystifying Microsoft, brought to you by the SourcePass Center of Excellence for Microsoft. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen so you don't miss an episode. If you would like to talk to one of our Microsoft problem solvers, click on the link in the episode description or contact our team at sourcepassmcoe.com. Thank you.